I heard my grandson's voice crying on the phone, begging, terrified. "Grandma, do not tell Mom." I had heard that boy say grandma since he was 4 years old. But this time, it was not him. It was a fake voice, made to sound close enough to someone I loved. Within 1 hour, $9,200 was gone. And this is not just my story. The FTC and FBI have warned families about voices that sound real, but are not. In this story, I will show you the 4 steps they used, and the 1 sentence that could have stopped it. My name is Margaret Wilson. I am 72 years old. For 34 years, I taught children in a public elementary school. I was not careless. I was not confused. I was a teacher, a mother, a grandmother, and I still believed I would know my own grandson's voice. By the time my daughter found out, the money was gone. The caller was gone. The number did not work anymore. And I was sitting at my kitchen table, trying to explain how I had believed a voice. I kept hearing the same words. "Grandma, do not tell Mom." I did not think I was hiding something from my daughter. I thought I was protecting Ethan. I thought he was scared. I thought he had made a mistake. I thought he needed one person who would not panic. So I became that person. That is what the scammer counted on. Not my weakness. My love. I should have called my daughter. I should have stopped. I should have said, "I will call you back on the family number." But in that moment, checking felt cruel. Doubt felt like betrayal. Secrecy felt like protection. If this story makes you think of someone who answers the phone because family comes first, share it with them. Because one day, a voice may call them and say, "Grandma, do not tell Mom." And this story may be the reason they hang up, call the real number, and stay safe. If you want more stories that help protect parents and grandparents before the next call comes, subscribe and stay with us. But before that call came, I was not waiting to be tricked. I was a grandmother with a normal life, a family I loved, and one soft place they found before I even knew they were looking. Before that call came, my life was quiet. Not empty, just quiet. My husband had been gone for 6 years. Some days, the house still felt like it was waiting for him to walk back in. His coffee mug was not on the table anymore. His boots were not by the door. His voice was not in the hallway. But I had learned how to keep going. I went to church on Sundays. I kept my bills in a folder by the kitchen drawer. I checked my bank statements every month. I locked my doors. I ignored strange emails. I did the things careful people do. For 34 years, I had taught children how to read. I had looked into hundreds of little faces and told them to slow down, think clearly, and ask for help when something felt wrong. That is why what happened to me hurts so much. Because I knew better. Or at least I thought I did. My daughter, Karen, called when she could. She had her own life, her own work, her own worries. And Ethan, my grandson, was away at college. When he was little, he called me for everything. "Grandma, how do you spell this word? Grandma, can I come over? Grandma, do not tell Mom I ate the cookies." Back then, being needed was normal. Then children grow up. They still love you, but they need you less. No one means to leave you behind. Life just gets louder for them and quieter for you. So when the phone rang that day, and I heard a young voice shaking on the other end, something inside me answered before my mind did. Not because I was weak, because I missed being the person Ethan called first. And that is the soft place they found. They did not begin with money. They began with a feeling. The feeling that my grandson still needed me. And once I believed that, the rest of the trap became easier to build. Ethan was not just my grandson. He was the little boy who used to run into my kitchen like the house belonged to him. He would drop his backpack by the chair, open my cookie tin, and say, "Grandma, I am starving," even if he had eaten lunch an hour before. When he was 4, he could not say Margaret. So he called me Grandma Maggie. After that, everyone in the family did. He was the one who made Mother's Day cards with too much glue. He was the one who sat beside me after his grandfather died and said, "I can stay here tonight if you want." He was only a child then. But somehow, he knew the house felt too quiet. As he got older, his voice changed. It became deeper, busier, more rushed. He did not call as often. But when he did, I still heard that same boy underneath. The one who trusted me. The one who used to ask for help before asking anyone else. So when people say, "How could you believe a voice on the phone?" they do not understand what I heard. I did not hear a stranger. I heard years. I heard birthdays. I heard scraped knees. I heard school stories. I heard a little boy who once needed me. And that is why the call reached me so quickly. Because the scammer did not have to build love from nothing. The love was already there. All he had to do was borrow the sound of it. I know that now. But in that moment, when I heard crying on the other end of the line, I did not think about scams. I thought about Ethan. And that is exactly what made the next sound so dangerous. Not because it was strange. Because it was familiar. The call came on a Tuesday afternoon. I remember that because I had just finished folding towels. The house was quiet. The television was off. There was a cup of tea cooling on the kitchen table. When the phone rang, I almost let it go. The number was not saved in my contacts. But something made me answer. Maybe habit. Maybe worry. Maybe the old feeling that when a phone rings, someone might need you. I said, "Hello?" For 1 second, there was only breathing. Then I heard it. A young man crying. Not loud. Not dramatic. Just broken enough to make my chest tighten. Then he said one word. "Grandma." I froze. Because it sounded like Ethan. Not perfect. Not calm. But scared in the way I remembered from when he was little. I said, "Ethan, is that you?" And he cried harder. That was the first step. Recognition. Not real recognition. Familiarity. He sounded close enough to someone I loved that my heart answered before my mind did. I did not ask where he was. I did not ask why the number was different. I did not stop and think something is wrong here. I heard fear. I heard shame. I heard my grandson. Then he said the line that pulled me all the way in. "Grandma, please. Do not tell Mom." And suddenly, the call was no longer just frightening. It was private. It was urgent. It was mine to handle. If he had asked for money right then, maybe I would have stopped. But he did not begin with money. He began with my name. Then my love. Then my silence. He said there had been an accident. That was the first full sentence I understood. An accident. Not a clear story. Not enough details. Just enough fear. His voice kept shaking. And every few words, he would stop like he was trying not to cry. "Grandma, I messed up." That is what he said. I really messed up. I stood there with the phone pressed to my ear. And I could feel my whole body getting cold. I asked him where he was. He said he could not talk long. I asked if he was hurt. He said, "A little, but that is not the worst part." Then he started crying again. And I did what grandmothers do. I tried to calm him down. I said, "Breathe, honey. Just breathe. Tell me what happened." But he did not really tell me. He gave me pieces. A car. A mistake. Someone hurt. Police. A lawyer. His mother finding out. Each piece made my mind work harder. And that was the trap. He did not have to explain everything. I filled in the empty spaces myself. Because when someone you love sounds scared, your heart starts building the story for them. I imagined Ethan alone. I imagined him shaking in some cold room. I imagined him too ashamed to call his mother. I imagined him needing me. That was the message that hooked me. Not the accident. Not the police. Not even the fear. It was the feeling that he had chosen me. That in the worst moment of his young life, he had called his grandmother first. I know how dangerous that sounds now. But in that moment, it felt like love. Then he lowered his voice and said the sentence that changed everything. "Please, Grandma. If Mom finds out, she will never forgive me." And just like that, the fear became a secret. That was the second step. Isolation. He did not pull me away from my family all at once. He made secrecy feel like love. "Please, Grandma," he said. "Do not tell Mom. Not yet. Not yet." Those two words made it sound temporary. Like I was not lying to my daughter. Like I was only waiting for the right moment. I told myself I would call Karen later. After Ethan was safe. After he calmed down. After I understood what had happened. But that is how the trap worked. It gave me a reason to delay the one call that could have saved me. He kept saying, "She will be so mad." And I understood that feeling. Not because Karen was cruel. She was not. My daughter loved her son more than anything. But mothers worry loudly. Grandmothers worry quietly. That is what I told myself. I thought Ethan had called me because he needed calm. Because he needed someone who would listen first and ask questions later. So I became quiet. I became careful. I became the secret keeper. And every minute I stayed silent, the scammer had more control. I did not know that then. I only knew there was a young voice crying in my ear. A voice that sounded like my grandson. A voice telling me I was the only person he trusted. That is a powerful thing to hear when you are older. When the house is quiet. When the children you raised have their own lives. When you miss being needed. So when he said, "Please do not call Mom," I did not hear a warning sign. I heard a grandson asking for mercy. But now I know the truth. A real emergency can survive a second phone call. A real grandson can wait while you verify. A real family problem does not need secrecy to stay real. Only a scam needs silence. And I was silent. For one moment, I looked at Karen's name on my phone. My thumb hovered over it. I almost pressed call. And that 1 second could have changed everything. But then the voice cried harder. And the door back to safety closed. For 1 second, I almost saved myself. I still think about that. 1 second. One small pause between panic and obedience. I had the phone pressed against my ear, and Ethan's voice was still crying. At least, what I thought was Ethan's voice. But my eyes were on Karen's name. My daughter. Her contact was right there on my screen. One press. That was all it would have taken. One press, and I could have heard her real voice. One press, and she could have called Ethan. One press, and the whole story could have fallen apart before the money was gone. But the voice on the line knew exactly when to pull me back. "Grandma, please," he cried. "Please do not. You promised." I had not promised. Not really. But somehow, it felt like I had. That is how fast fear can change the truth. I remember whispering, "I will not. I will not tell her yet." And the moment I said that, I stepped farther away from help. What I should have said was simple. "I will call you back on the family number." That sentence could have saved me. It was not rude. It was not cruel. It was not abandoning him. It was protection. But in that moment, the fake voice made it feel like betrayal. It made checking feel cold. It made doubt feel unloving. It made me feel like if I paused, my grandson would suffer. So I did not call Karen. I did not call Ethan's real number. I stayed on the line with a stranger who sounded like family. And every minute I stayed, the world outside that phone got smaller. There was only his crying, only his fear, only his secret, and my need to fix it before anyone else found out. That was the almost escape. Not a locked door, not a missing chance. The exit was right there in my hand. I just could not see it through the panic. Then another voice came on the line. Calm. Official. And that was when the lie started wearing a uniform. Then a man's voice came on the line. Older. Calmer. Serious. He did not cry. He did not beg. That made him feel real in a different way. He said he was helping Ethan. He said there had been an accident. He said things were moving quickly. He used words I did not fully understand, but they sounded official. Case. Statement. Holding. Release. Paperwork. Every word made the room feel smaller. I asked if I could speak to Ethan again. The man said, "Just a moment." Then I heard the crying voice come back. "Grandma, please. Just do what he says." That was the third step. Fake proof. Not real proof. Just enough proof to make doubt feel cruel. There was noise in the background. A door closing. A voice far away. Paper moving near the phone. Maybe those sounds were real. Maybe they were not. I do not know. But at that moment, they worked. Because I was not listening like a detective. I was listening like a grandmother. I heard fear. I heard pressure. I heard someone official telling me this was serious. And then I heard the voice I thought was Ethan again. That was enough to make my doubt feel wrong. I remember thinking, why would someone fake this? Why would someone be so cruel? That question slowed me down. Because the truth was too ugly to accept quickly. It was easier to believe my grandson had made a mistake than to believe strangers were pretending to be him while I cried in my kitchen. The fake proof did not need to be perfect. It only needed to arrive while I was scared. It only needed to make me feel that if I questioned it, I was wasting time. That is what I know now. Fake proof is not always a document. It is not always a badge. Sometimes it is a crying voice. Sometimes it is a calm stranger. Sometimes it is the sound of urgency. And sometimes it is your own heart filling in the missing pieces. Once they had my fear and my silence, they gave me one more thing. A clock. That was the fourth step. Pressure. Once I believed the voice, they did not ask me to think. They asked me to hurry. The calm man came back and said time was important. He said if the paperwork was not handled soon, things could get worse for Ethan. He did not yell. That almost made it worse. He sounded patient, professional, like a man who had done this many times. He said, "Mrs. Wilson, I understand this is difficult, but we have a very small window." A small window. That phrase made everything feel like it was closing. My kitchen, my breath, my choices. He said Ethan was scared. He said Ethan did not want his mother involved yet. He said this could be handled quietly if I followed the instructions. Quietly. That word should have warned me. But in that moment, it sounded like mercy. I thought quiet meant protecting my family from shame. I thought fast meant helping before things got worse. I thought obedience meant love. That is how pressure works. It does not always sound like a threat. Sometimes it sounds like you are the only one who can help him. And when you are a grandmother, those words can reach places logic cannot. I asked if I could have time to think. The man paused. Then the crying voice came back. "Grandma, please. I am scared." And the clock started again inside my chest. I stopped thinking about the unknown number. I stopped thinking about calling Karen. All I could think was if I wait too long, something bad may happen to Ethan. That is what they wanted. Not my trust forever. Just my panic for 1 hour. 1 hour was enough. Enough to make me move. Enough to make me hide. Enough to make checking feel cruel. By the time I picked up my purse, I was not thinking like a teacher anymore. I was thinking like a grandmother with a scared child on the line. And by the time my daughter called, I was not hiding money from her. I thought I was hiding pain from her. My daughter Karen called while I was still on the line. I saw her name light up on my phone. For a second, my body wanted to answer. A daughter knows your voice in a way strangers do not. She would have heard the fear in mine. She would have asked one clear question. "Mom, what is going on?" And maybe that would have broken the spell. But before I could move, the calm man said, "Mrs. Wilson, it is very important that you do not involve anyone else right now." Then the crying voice came back. "Grandma, please. Not Mom. Please." So I watched Karen's call disappear. Then came a text. "Mom, are you home?" I stared at it like it belonged to another world. The safe world. The world where my daughter could still reach me. But I did not answer. I told myself I would call her soon. After Ethan was safe. After the paperwork was handled. After I understood what to say. But the truth is, the scammer had already placed a wall between us. Not a real wall. A secret. And secrets can be stronger than locked doors. Karen had warned me before. She had said, "Mom, if anyone calls asking for money, call me first. Even if they say it is family." I remembered that. That is the part that hurts. I remembered her warning, and still the fake voice felt louder. Because a warning is calm. Panic is loud. A warning sits in your memory. A crying grandchild sits in your chest. So when Karen called again, I turned the phone over. I could not bear to see her name. I thought I was sparing her pain. I thought I was keeping Ethan's mistake quiet until I could fix it. But now I know what really happened. They did not just steal my money. They borrowed my love for Ethan and used it to block my daughter out. By the time I finally answered Karen, I had already crossed the line she had tried to protect me from. And the next place I went was the one place I never thought I would help a stranger rob me. My own bank. I drove to the bank with the phone on speaker. The calm man told me not to hang up. He said it was better if I stayed connected, in case there was a problem. At the time, that sounded helpful. Now I know it was control. My hands shook on the steering wheel. The whole way there, I kept hearing Ethan breathe. Sometimes he would cry softly. Sometimes he would say, "Grandma, please hurry." Every red light felt like I was failing him. When I walked into the bank, everything looked normal. People stood in line. A teller smiled. Someone was filling out a deposit slip. And there I was, carrying a secret that felt heavier than my purse. The teller asked how she could help me. I said I needed to withdraw money. My voice sounded strange to me. Too small. Too careful. She asked if everything was all right. For 1 second, I almost told her. I almost said, "My grandson is in trouble." But the man on the phone had already warned me. He said if I mentioned the case, it could make things worse. So I smiled. I lied. I told her it was for a family matter. And that hurt because I had spent my life teaching children to tell the truth. But fear can make an honest person hide the truth from the very people trying to help. When the teller counted the money, I could not look at it. $9,200. It was not just paper. It was repairs I had delayed. Groceries I had budgeted. Years of saving a little at a time. I told myself it was temporary. I told myself Ethan would pay it back. I told myself a grandmother does not think about money when her grandchild is scared. But deep down, something inside me was whispering. Stop. Call Karen. Call Ethan's real number. Say the sentence. I will call you back on the family number. I did not say it. I walked out with the money. And the moment I handed it over, I expected relief. But relief never came. Only another call. After the first payment, I waited for someone to say it was over. I waited for the calm man to say Ethan was safe. I waited to hear my grandson breathe easier. But that is not what happened. The phone rang again before I even got home. The man's voice sounded heavier now. He said there was another problem. More paperwork. Another fee. More time pressure. I remember standing in my driveway with the car door still open. The money was already gone. And somehow, the emergency had grown. That was the moment a small part of me woke up. Not fully. Just enough to whisper, something is wrong. But shame moved faster than truth. Because if I stopped then, I had to admit I had already handed money to a stranger. If I called Karen then, I had to explain why I ignored her. If I called Ethan's real number then, I had to face the chance that the crying voice was never him. So I stayed trapped between fear and shame. Fear said, what if Ethan still needs you? Shame said, what if everyone finds out? And together, they kept me quiet. That is what people do not understand. The first payment does not always end the scam. Sometimes it becomes the chain. Once you send the money, you do not just fear losing more. You fear admitting what already happened. The man kept talking. The crying voice came back again. Grandma, please. Just one more thing. But this time, it did not sound the same. Maybe the voice changed. Maybe I changed. Maybe some part of me finally heard the empty space behind it. I looked at my phone. Karen had called again. 3 missed calls. 1 message. Mom, please call me. I am worried. And for the first time that day, I wanted my daughter more than I wanted to protect the secret. Then I heard a car pull into my driveway. A door closed. Footsteps came toward the house. And the lie had nowhere left to hide. My daughter opened the front door without knocking. She had a key. She always had a key. But that day, the sound of that door opening felt like the truth walking into the room. Mom. She called. I was still holding the phone. The calm man was still talking. His voice changed when he heard Karen in the house. Mrs. Wilson, do not speak to anyone, he said. That was when Karen saw my face. She looked at me, then at the phone, then at the purse on the table. Mom, who is that? I could barely answer. It is Ethan, I whispered. He is in trouble. Karen went still. Then she said, hang up. I shook my head. Because even then, some part of me was still afraid. Afraid that hanging up would hurt him. Afraid that Karen did not understand. Afraid that I had already gone too far to turn back. But Karen took out her phone and called Ethan's real number. The ringing felt endless. Then he answered. Not crying. Not scared. Just confused. Mom, what is wrong? Karen put him on speaker. And there it was. My real grandson's voice. Clear. Safe. Alive. For a moment, I could not breathe. The boy I knew was not in jail. He was not hurt. He had not called me. He was sitting in his dorm room, asking why his mother sounded scared. I looked down at the phone in my hand. The other line had gone silent. No goodbye. No explanation. Just silence. That was the final reveal. The voice I had trusted was never him. The emergency was never real. The secret was never protection. And the money was already gone. Ethan kept saying, Grandma? Grandma, are you okay? But I could not answer. Because I had spent the whole day trying to save him. And now he was the one hearing me fall apart. After the truth came out, I did not want to answer the phone. I did not want to look at my bank account. But most of all, I did not want to look at my daughter. I could not look at Karen at first. Not because she was angry. She was not. That almost made it worse. She sat beside me at the kitchen table and put her hand over mine. I kept saying, I should have known. She kept saying, Mom, they knew what to use. But I could not hear her yet. All I could hear was that fake voice. Grandma, do not tell Mom. Please hurry. Those words stayed in my house after the call ended. They stayed in my chest. I felt embarrassed. I felt exposed. I felt like I had failed as a mother, a grandmother, and the careful woman I thought I was. Then Karen said the sentence I needed, even though I did not believe it yet. Mom, you were not stupid. You were targeted. I want you to hear that too. If this has happened to you, or to someone you love, shame is exactly what the scammer wants left behind. Because shame keeps people quiet. And quiet people cannot warn the next family. So here's the rule I wish I had known before the phone rang. A familiar voice is not proof. Crying is not proof. A secret emergency is the warning. Urgency is the warning. Hang up. Call the real family number. Verify first. And the sentence that could have stopped it was not complicated. It was not rude. It was not cruel. It was this: I will call you back on the family number. A real grandson can wait. A real daughter can be called. A real emergency can be checked. But a scam needs secrecy. A scam needs speed. A scam needs you to stay alone. If this story made you think of your mother, your grandmother, your father, your neighbor, or anyone who lives alone, please share it with them today. Not later. Today. And if you believe families need warnings before the next call comes, like this video, so YouTube shows it to more people who need it. Subscribe for more true-to-life scam warning stories that protect seniors, widows, grandparents, and families. And leave one word in the comments. Verify. Because that one word may remind someone to pause before it is too late. I was not foolish. I was a grandmother. I heard a voice that sounded like someone I loved. And for 1 hour, love moved faster than doubt. But now I know. If they say, do not tell mom, that is exactly when you call mom.